democracy and free markets and international law and international norms. And so for us to be able to get together and focus on critical issues that not only affect individual countries but affect the international order, I think, is vitally important. And we very much appreciate the work the Japanese and Prime Minister Abe have done in organizing an excellent meeting. So far, we've discussed issues of the global economy and the need to continue to accelerate growth, to use all the tools at our disposal to make sure that we're not only putting people back to work, but also helping to lift wages and helping to make sure that we can sustain the momentum of the recovery that's taking place in the United States most prominently, but also we're starting to see some progress in Europe. The fact that the Greek debt crisis has been resolved for a reasonable length of time, I think should help. But we've all got a lot of work to do, and we agreed to continue to focus on making sure that each country, based on its particular needs and capacities, are taking steps to accelerate growth. We had a chance to talk about trade, not only TPP and our involvement in that, but also TTIP, and recommitted ourselves to making sure that we try to finish those negotiations before the end of the year, and emphasize the importance of pushing back against either protectionism or competitive currency devaluations or the kinds of beggar-thy-neighbor strategies that all too often end up leaving everybody worse off. We began to touch on some of the key security issues that are important to all of us. South China Sea and maritime security, touched on issues surrounding Ukraine, where we've started to see some progress in negotiations, but we're still seeing too much violence, and we need to get that resolved. And we're going to spend some time this evening tackling some of the other major international hotspots. So that gives you an update of where we're at so far. And with that, I'm just going to dive in, and you guys can ask some questions. And we're going to start with Gardner.
Mr. President, 11 of your predecessors decided against going to Hiroshima.
Mm-hmm.
What do you know that they didn't? Or what were they worried about that you aren't? And just sort of generally on nonproliferation, because I think that's your focus, and that's obviously a priority for you. How do you communicate risks and concerns about this in a way that would do more to get it resolved? Because it seems to be getting worse. I mean, Americans worry a lot about terrorists with suicide vests, which are unlikely events that can kill dozens. Do they worry enough about the risks of nuclear mishaps or attacks, which are unlikely events that could potentially kill millions instead of dozens? In short, are we paying enough attention to Kim Jong-un and, Pakistani tactical nuclear weapons, the sorts of things that are going on?
Good. Well, it's a terrific question. First of all, I won't characterize how other presidents were thinking about these issues. I can tell you how I'm thinking about it, and that is that the dropping of the atomic bomb, the ushering in of nuclear weapons, was an inflection point in modern history. It is something that all of us have had to deal with in one way or another. Obviously, it's not as prominent in people's thinking as it was during the Cold War, at a time when our parents or grandparents were huddling under desks in frequent drills. But the backdrop of a nuclear event remains something that I think presses on the back of our imaginations. I do think that part of the reason I'm going is because I want to once again underscore the very real risks that are out there and the sense of urgency that we all should have. So it's not only a reminder of the terrible toll of World War II and the death of innocents across continents, but it's also to remind ourselves that the job's not done in reducing conflict, building institutions of peace, and reducing the prospect of nuclear war in the future. In some ways, we've seen real progress over the last several years. The Iran nuclear deal is a big piece of business because without us having to fire a shot, we were able to persuade a big, sophisticated country that had a well-developed nuclear program not to develop nuclear weapons.
Okay, that's that press conference there. That was President Obama speaking at the G7 summit in London, where leaders as well, 7 major economies are talking about trade, the global economy, and terrorism.